Good morning, and welcome to a meeting of the Holiday Island Board of Commissioners. This is a business meeting of the board that is held in public. The board is committed to the disclosure of the business activities of the district to the public, as well as the public's ability to make comments at public meetings. I want to remind all in attendance that the Board of Commissioners acts as a governing body, whereas the district manager is responsible for the day-to-day operations of the district. The purpose of the board as elected representatives of the property owner is to provide direction to the district manager and to assure the financial solvency of the district. It is not the responsibility of the commissioners to become involved in the daily operations of the district. Let's stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Surratt, would you call the roll, please?
Yes, I will. Chairperson Childers.
Here.
Vice Chair Dyer.
Here.
Secretary Surratt. Here. Commissioner Brown.
Here.
Commissioner Stamps appears to be absent.
He's absent. He's on a trip, a granddaughter's wedding in Texas. So that sounded like a good
That's a
reason to
good
be
excuse.
absent. But with four of us here, I do declare a quorum. You have received the agenda, both by email and it's in front of you. So I need a motion to approve or revise the agenda.
So moved.
Commissioner Brown has made a motion to approve the agenda. Do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioner Dyer, Commissioner Bob was has seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
We have received by email the minutes from the September the 2nd meeting, September the 23rd, October the 17th, and September the 26th regular meeting. You've had a chance to look over all of those, make any notice or corrections? Any comments on the minutes?
I have read the minutes and worked with the secretaries to get them straight and make sure that everything is correct. And I move that we approve the minutes as printed.
Second.
All right, thank you. Commissioner Surratt has made a motion to approve the minutes for 4 meetings. Commissioner Brown has seconded the motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. All right, do we have any ceremonials this morning that you're aware of?
No.
I'm aware of. Any announcements?
I have one, Chair. I'd like to thank the Holiday Island Hospitality Association for cleaning the road a week or so ago. We only had 7 pickers, 7 people out there. We usually have 20. So when we do it again in April, they would like to see more people there. But there were sure a lot of things going on that weekend. We had a nice brunch for them down at the pavilion, and we got about 9 bags. We usually get about 30 bags of trash, unfortunately, from the highway and byways. But I'd like to thank IHOP for continuing to sponsor that. And Ben Helmer has been doing it for a number of years. I think he'll do it for one more in April. But it's a really good thing to keep our areas looking clean and nice.
It's wonderful to see volunteerism help us keep our community clean and looking good. Any other announcements? All right, let's move to the public comment section. I've looked over the sheet. Most people that are here would like to talk about the rec center. I have 2 people that did not indicate. Mr. Mills, you wanted to speak at this time, or?
Yes, I can. Ken Mills, 20 Rocky Top Circle. I'm just wondering when...
Turn the mic on, Ken.
When the audit report for 21 is going to be in.
We've been asking the very same thing. The auditor tells us that he's had as much struggles with employment of personnel as all the rest of us have. At this point, I don't think we've received it yet, have we?
No, ma'am.
Yeah. And it isn't for the lack of asking. So we understand your concern. We'd like to see it too. When they were here, they did not indicate that they saw any issues. But it'd be nice to see that in writing.
Well, my main concern is the largest figure that we have for uncollectible assessment.
Yeah, and they may want to do some adjusting entries because of that. All right, Ms. Peterson?
Good morning, Linda Peterson, 120 Appaloosa, and I'll be quick. Number one, I'd like to comment on the rec center.
Is that your only comment, Linda?
No, ma'am.
Okay, can we hold the rec center comment until the time we talk about that?
Sure.
Okay.
We will talk about something else that we've talked about before, and that's Appaloosa and the chip and seal. And if somebody would like to take another drive up there today, you will see where all of the potholes that were not filled are now full of water. So again, we have not done that job properly. And then I have a question, and that question is, I noticed in the minutes where we have been limited to asking of questions after we speak. Is there a particular reason, you may not be able to answer it now, but is there a particular reason why our discussion has been cut off? And I have another thing and I can't remember. I'm sorry, I can't remember
It's
the other
okay.
thing, but those are the two or the three things.
I think all of us understand. We're having public comments at the beginning for just general public comments that people have, and then public comments at each one of the business items. Our attorney has suggested that we follow the routine that is used in almost every other governmental entity, where people sign up for comments and then we call on them.
Okay, so we still have an opportunity to comment on agenda items, is that right?
New business items, yes,
Thank you.
And that's why there's a column on this sign-in sheet for us to know what you want to comment on. All right.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir?
So if we have general public comments, do we speak now?
Yes. Yes, if you have if it's specific to the agenda item, you wait till that point in time. And if you're not sure,
Can I make general comments now?
yes, and if you're not sure, I suggest you sign up for all of it, and then you can always pass.
But we can't trade or sell them all.
No, you can't sell them all.
You can't negotiate for more minutes either.
There goes my Christmas funds.
Okay.
Okay,
3 minute,
general comments, 3 minutes.
3
Less than
minutes.
that. Talking about traffic. When you go into Eureka Springs, you see that 25-mile-an-hour sign, you hit the brakes because you know you're going to get a ticket. When you come to Holiday Island, some people, me occasionally, you don't worry about it because you know nobody's going to stop you, or you're very poor chances, maybe 1 every 2 days, 15 in a month, and most of those are going to be a warning. I know we can't set a quota. That was proven over on Highway 65 a few years ago where the town got most of their money from traffic fines. I don't want to do that. But I think we need maybe a little bit more presence. Even if Aaron could park his car on Holly Island Drive and then have somebody else give him a ride up to the restaurant while he has lunch. But we need I believe we need a little bit more appearance of enforcement. Other than that, I think Aaron does a great job. He addresses our concerns. If you call him with a personal problem, if you see him in the store, you can talk to him about something. But I think we need more appearance of having some kind of speed limit enforcement.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Wilkes, I see you stood up, and so I'm going to let you speak, but I need to let you know that we have a procedure now. If you want to speak for general comments, you need to indicate that when you sign in. It is something new.
Yes, ma'am.
You did sign in, but you didn't indicate that you were going to wish to speak, so.
My comment is.
Okay, you need to say your name and address.
Yes, ma'am. Mavis Wilkes, 29 Venus, Holiday Island. My comment is to say that thank you, a big thank you to our water department. We have made rates out on Venus and also down on Summit. And our water department came out and searched and searched and searched. There on Venus and finally found the leak, which was major. It had covered all the street, went down on both sides of the ditch, down into the neighbor's yard. They got that fixed, and then a few days ago, we leaked down on Summit. And I want to come back and speak again on the rec center, if I may. This is really concerning me because of the waste of the water that has run out. It has started, according to our water department, it has started early that morning and had continued. Had a neighbor not come by and told me, out of my water meter, I would not have known it. I thought at first it was my water meter. It wasn't. It had come from another area and had proceeded to run all morning, afternoon, and then late evening they finally found the leak. It was fixed. So there was a lot of water leaking, and the major water line had burst. So this was the cost. We need to get those fixed, people. We need to get that done. We need to put our money, I know there's a certain amount that's supposed to be set aside for the rec center. We need to let that go. But I want to continue that in a few minutes, okay? Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Schrader, you just walked in just a little bit late to hear that Ms. Wilkes was thanking the water department for the work that they did in fixing those leaks.
I don't know where he is, but thank you, sir, for your service. Appreciate it.
Back in the corner.
All right, I believe we've gone through all the general comments. So,
We have another one.
What did I write?
Carrie.
So,
So, Jeanette, you,
It was rec center and then something else.
oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, the constable, I will say, I've been stopped twice in, my name is Jeanette Selleck, 22 Buckskin Lane. I've been stopped twice in Eureka Springs, 2 times he didn't give me a ticket. Trust me, I never drive over the speed limit in Eureka Springs. Holiday Island, I'm perpetually late. I will tell you, I speed, I drive through Holiday Island. I do slow down more on Holiday Island Drive. The constable's never around. I know I'll never get a ticket. Why bother? And that's really, one day I was driving, I was zipped by a work truck. He was going like a bat out of whatever. But who cares? There's no constable. No one gives tickets. No one stops. 15 stops in a month is a joke. You can make 15 stops in an hour. Ask the people on Holiday Island if they want the constable to be effective on traffic control, because he's not. The second thing is, I almost slid off the road coming down, I think it's Quill Drive. Yeah, Appaloosa, and is that Quill Drive over there? Yeah, because there's so much loose rock, literally by the curve, right by Rick Chambers, I almost slid in the ditch. There is so much loose rock that has never been worked in, can't be worked in, because there's more stone than there is tar. Thank you.
I believe we have worked through the public comments.
We have one more. Carrie wanted to say something.
Carrie?
Is it possible to make one more?
Yes.
Linda Peterson, 120 Appaloosa. I have checked with the sheriff's department, and our constable's record of his stops and how he spends his day is available for public information. And I have to agree with Ms. Selleck that there is no way I mean, if we don't start giving tickets with a monetary value to them, and I don't pay $10, $110, we're not gonna stop the speeding. But I personally am gonna look at what this gentleman does in the month and how he does spend his time. Thank you. Sorry, ma'am.
And I did put in the board report for last month, highlighted some information from the sheriff's report. There were 190 calls for service last month. So there are other things that he deals with beside dealing with. We see traffic speed as being an issue, but there are other things that go on here. So, all right, let's move on to, yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to give you guys some numbers, and I want to brag on the ladies in the office. This year, in the middle of the chaos of the assessment collection, Cox gave us all kinds of headaches. We were trying to take payments, and I know the property owners, I know you were frustrated, but we were too. And the ladies just handled that great. And the assessment was due on the 17th, and the water bills were due on the 18th. And I want to brag because all the assessment payments were posted by the end of business day on Tuesday. That has never happened. And all the assessments were posted with the exception of, I know you guys maybe saw in the newsletter, the notices about the tax situation. Let me give you just a quick little deal on that. There's a company up there called CoreLogic, and they are a tax service. Well, initially, they blasted in an email to us, and they wanted the assessment status on 5,000 properties. Well, when the ladies got it to me, I said, whoa, whoa, whoa. So we sent it back and said, there is no way. You send us what are your customers. So they sent us 300 and some. So we assumed that that was people they actually were legitimately connected to. Payments. Well, then we got a call and they said, look, we pay our own assessments. And we were chewed out because CoreLogic told them that we had contacted CoreLogic that their assessment was delinquent and that they had to pay it. We have no idea who anybody's mortgage company is. So right then we knew something was going on. Well, then it proceeded to where we got several checks, but what CoreLogic did was they might pay for 15 properties. Might have 5 that were already paid. You might have 3 that had paid 2 installments. So we had to return the whole check because there's no way we could handle trying to, regulate who had paid and who hadn't paid. So we sent a stack of checks, and every time they called, we would say, you've got to send us individual checks for each property. So the lady started trying to call people and say, you're just kind of caught up in this quagmire. And then we just simply didn't have time. So we told people, to try to call in. Well, on Friday, that the assessments were due the next Monday, we got a nice thick stack of checks. So those were the only ones we didn't have applied because we didn't have the time to go through to figure out. Well, we sent back over 70 checks. We mailed them on Friday back to CoreLogic. So what our biggest concern is for the property owner. And everybody, we want you to monitor your escrow accounts because then surprisingly enough, last Tuesday we got a call from somebody that had paid off their mortgage. But CoreLogic sent us a check. So this is just please monitor your escrow accounts because it was a pain for us, but our biggest concern is what it's creating for you guys. And we did our best to monitor it, and I feel like that the ladies did a wonderful job, but there's going to be those ones that are going to come through and going to bite somebody. But through the end of September, we had collected 1.4 million assessments. And then through the end of business last Friday, we had collected 617,817. So at the end of business last Friday, it was $2,028,341 that we had collected.
Thank goodness.
So, but anyway, just the ladies, and we kind of get a bad deal because we're the grumps in the office. But we're truly just trying to do what's best for you guys and trying to stay on top of things. The ladies are in there right now. Today is water shut-off day. not a fun day. So they're in there trying to go through the list and trying to, figure out, because we can't call everybody, but you have the times that somebody pops up and that's totally out of character for them. So we try to reach out to them. So that's what they're in there doing now, is going through who hasn't paid their water bill and trying to see, okay, there's something going on. We have times we've had to call kids and everything else. So we truly try to do what's best for the customer. But I just wanted to brag on the ladies, they're all doing great. And thank you.
Thank you, Carrie.
Before you step away,
Okay.
this CoreLogic is a company.
Yes.
And I believe you told me you've gotten calls from employees of CoreLogic from all over the world.
Yes.
They are acting on behalf supposedly of mortgage companies.
Yes, when we,
But the property owners, like the people here in Holiday Island, have no idea
No.
that this is going on. It's like a shadow hanging over their mortgage, and you are absolutely correct. The word needs to get out to everybody that has a mortgage to watch their escrow, because as several people have commented, they weren't having their assessment escrow. They were paying it themselves, and here comes this company, unbeknownst to anybody, operating in the shadows, and they send in a check, and they're gonna collect that from the property owner. There's gonna be a time that payment has to be made, and it should be the property owner's choice, not this shadow
Yes.
company that just.
when we sent the checks back to CoreLogic and they finally figured out what was going on, well, then we started having, because you're right, CoreLogic is a tax service. They're reaching out to these mortgage companies and saying, boy, let us handle your
taxes.
your taxes for you because we do such a good job. Well, when we sent those checks back, then Regina started getting calls from Penny Mac, Mr. Cooper, Loan Depot, the actual mortgage companies. And Regina just said, well, I think it's in your company's best interest to scratch CoreLogic off your list, because if what they've done to us, they're doing nationwide. And the lady told her, she says, well, we went with CoreLogic because it was cheaper. And Regina said, well, just remember you get what you pay for sometimes. So, and I know there's going to be, situations, and we'll do what we can. I mean, Regina has talked to so many mortgage companies, trying to show what the payments are and trying to, help. So we're glad to try to help and do what we can.
So, Carrie, at this point, do you have any knowledge that this is bigger than just Holiday Island assessment, that maybe they're trying to pay county taxes too on behalf
Well,
of people?
that's what we've told people. We don't know that, but whenever we're talking to people, we say, you better, prior to the due date, you better check on your Carroll County taxes to make sure that it's okay, because we don't know.
Good.
Carrie, do you have an idea, I know it's just been since last Monday that your deadline was, but do you have an idea about how many late payments there were, whether it's CoreLogic or St. John Doe? Do you have any idea of that yet?
Well, I mean, there are some, and of course, we had the calls on Tuesday. Oh, gosh, I missed it yesterday. Can I pay it today, not pay the penalty? Okay, that penalty is an Arkansas state law.
Right.
And back to him was, is this kind of what I shared with the ladies, we can't play God. And we've had horrible circumstances. But, we can't say, oh, gee, that is a true valid excuse, we're going to let you go, because whenever we tell this guy, well, maybe yours isn't, then we're discriminating.
Yeah.
And we cannot get into that situation of discriminating. But I can tell you that last year, through the end of September, we collected just over 2.1 million, and this year it's just over 2. So we've got delinquencies there, but then you've got to build in the situation, you have all the ones that are delinquent. But the The good news on the delinquencies, there has been one group foreclosed on. And then the second group will be foreclosed on by the end of the year. Because what's happened over the years between situations and then with COVID, the foreclosures didn't happen for some years. So, well, I explained to Suzanne, you have a ball of rubber bands and you send out your billing. Well, you've got this ball over here that you know aren't gonna pay it, but they're still in your system as property owners. So then the next year, you have your ones that go delinquent, so your ball of rubber bands gets a little bit bigger. So you send out that second year billing, and you've got a bigger group in there that you know are not gonna pay because you're gonna have to foreclose on them. So at least after this year, when we send out those bills in February, it will just be the ones that are delinquent for 2022. And then they will be foreclosed on, you know, it always takes after the middle of the year in 2023. So that always kind of makes these numbers, like you guys look at the billing, because in accounting, you have to put in there what you billed, because that's what your expected revenue is. And we have to put that number in there, but we know good and well, there's a large group of them that we're not going to get because they're delinquent and in the process of foreclosure. So at least after getting through this process, whenever we do the billing, it's going to be a much truer, you know, representation of what we can truly expect.
Was the core logic in the October 17th versus 15th and the Cox phone problems, did that add to all of your woes over there?
You know, I mean, it was, you'd be on the credit card machine and you'd be trying to take a payment and the call was gone. You know, and I know people got frustrated, but people actually were very, very nice, because I've seen a lot of you were out here and you were experiencing the same thing. So people were wonderful, like some people, bless their heart, it took them 6 calls to get a payment to us because it kept crashing and kept crashing. And the last meeting, Cheryl had the experience, because I don't turn the meeting on the Wi-Fi because it tags it down, so I always put it on my cell phone just to make sure it started in here. So last Monday during the work session, and we were trying to frantically take payments, well, it kept crashing and kept crashing. So if anybody looks for the meeting online, there's 2 pieces of it there, but there was not enough Cox juice to come through to support doing the meeting. There is a recording of the meeting if anybody'd like to bring in a flash drive and do that. But we do our best, but we can only do what we can do. But Cox, they were so gracious, they did credit us a whole month's bill.
That's good.
So and they've done some, but I mean, the ladies are all just, like Sherry was on the phone with them, and she got credits before that. So, I mean, they know it's a problem. They've been back here with their trucks in the back of the building, everything under the sun. And I've had a few choice words with them. So, but, I mean, the public really, like with us dealing with that, if they hadn't been so nice, it would have been much worse on us. But it's just frustrating to us because we don't like providing the best customer service we can.
Carrie, thank you so much for coming in, explaining the people don't understand. They think that you just get a check and write it off. It's a whole lot more complicated, convoluted than that.
And people got upset, you got my payment, why didn't you take it? We couldn't. I mean, you know, we had probably 20 checks that had multiple properties on it. You know, and a few of those didn't have very many on it, and maybe both of them were okay, we deposited those. But if there was a question on any of them, we couldn't deposit that.
Sure,
no.
sure. Well, please pass along to everybody the appreciation of the board for all that y'all do.
Well, we appreciate that. Okay, thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Let's move along to the sheriff's report. We got that by email, I believe.
Yes, ma'am.
And I don't have a copy with me. Should we move beyond that since Lingle isn't
please.
here? All right. Mr. Presley, District Manager's report.
I just think I'll just see.
Or you want to just
Okay,
wait?
I'll save the financials. I would like to report on the recreation center. You know, we only had one bid for that, but the gentleman that did the work did a really good job. He moved in here and got it done in about 3.5 weeks. He's finished up over at the rec center. If you have a chance to drive by and take a look at that, you'll see that it looks much different. He took out a lot of the stone and what I call the jungle that was grown up around the front of it, which was landscaping that was just unkept. And the way he shaped that up is going to make it much easier to maintain, much more attractive, if and when we build a new building there. So we're glad to get that project completed, and it gives us better visibility from the island room over to the pool area.
Danny, I had one question. I understand that there have been some deer that have gotten in previously before the building was torn down. We had fence all the way around, and they had to take some of that fence out, but no new fence was put in. And I think there was one on the pad, on the cover, on the pool cover. Is there any, we can't keep mind pool covers because they're very expensive, and we don't want a deer to die. Is there a plan to either put up construction fence or something that animals and people don't get in there?
Yes, we will have to rebuild those fences so that the pools are secured. And that's the next step. I'll be getting some bids on that very soon.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we have no pending old business. Our new business that we're moving on to is the rec center construction report, or quote. We don't have an official written quote, but you were able to talk to Mr. Johnson by phone, is that correct?
That's correct.
Would you tell us, for our very scaled down building, what?
So it might be important, if I could share,
Sure.
to point out that the bid process, we went through that.
Yeah.
And we only got one bid.
One
And
bid.
we thought it was astronomical at the time. And so Danny has reached out to a local contractor that he can give him the name of, and this is where this information is coming from.
Correct me if I'm wrong on this, but the initial bid that we got from, sending out an RFQ, I think was $640,000.
I'm thinking
Somewhere.
660, but I
I
don't.
think you glanced at the
Maybe.
number and put it back in the
Maybe.
envelope.
Yeah.
Yes, we
We just
didn't look at it too long. It
Yeah,
was
we didn't look at it
really,
too long.
660, I think is what it
Right,
was.
sure.
It was over 600,000.
Yeah,
The one from Broadway was 700 even, Broadway.
it was 700.
Well,
That's the big building.
And
That was
Mr. Presley called Broadway and asked them to bid, and they said they were so busy that they wouldn't even present a bid.
Okay.
It is very difficult to get a contractor to move in here with the heavy equipment and then the personnel, because we're in such a remote area that if they're coming out of Bentonville, Rogers area, or Harrison, Springfield, Branson, it's just difficult for them to come out here and take on a project. They have to find places for the labor to stay, probably pay per diem, because you just can't, it's just not cost effective to drive back and forth, a couple of hours each way. So it's very difficult to find someone to do this type of work out here. So as Commissioner Dyer mentioned, I did reach out to a local contractor who had done some work with the city and had some interaction with the city, and he seemed to be squared away on his plans and permitting and just the way he does his business. So he gave us two quotes. The first quote was $572,000 with a metal roof and $553,000 with a shingle roof. So that's, and he said, I'm local, I love this community, I really want to do this work. He said, I'm not trying to make a lot of money here, but he said, I've been through these numbers 4 or 5 times. And he said, I simply can't find a cheaper way to build it. The square footage is 2305. So that's where we're at.
That's where we're at.
We have a decision to make.
No, there's.
Discussion? Well, let's let our community members make their comments about.
So they might want to hear our.
Well, the way the procedure is written is they go first and we go last. Okay, so, let's see. Mr. Selleck, you wish to talk about the pool? You're going to pass. Mr. House? And we'll ask you to start with your name and address,
Don
please.
House, 68 Shieldsburg.
Thank you.
As far as the pool goes, my thinking is that we all came here because of the amenities. I know some people come here for the view, some people come here for the wildlife and all that. But you can get the wildlife and the view anywhere else, in southern Missouri, northern Arkansas. But you're here because of the amenities. And my feeling about the amenities is, if you're going to attract people coming here and buying houses and buying lots and paying assessments, you're going to have good amenities. I come from the natural gas business. We used to say, you got to sell the sizzle. And that's what this is. You got to sell the sizzle. You want to have a rec center that has that wow factor. When people come, they go, wow, what is this? I've got to be part of this. And, you know, if you put up a couple of latrines up there and an outdoor shower, that doesn't have a wow factor. So, if you can find the money, I think you should spend it on the rec center. You should use good sense doing that.
Thank you, Mr. House. Mr. Zerby?
Them the cheap seats, I can't do that. My name's Joe Zerby. I live at 33 Lakeside Drive. As Mr. House said, my wife and I moved over here because of the amenities. I mean, we looked around and we have grandkids and so forth, so the amenities were very important. Very important. And I think they are to a lot of people. I would love to see a rec center with all the bells and whistles, but I don't know that that's really the smart thing to do. I'd like to see them. I think now, since the shires are no longer available and the amount of bathroom facilities aren't near what they were, I mean, I can see with it being in limbo here, it's going to be a big mess. I mean, trying to keep people from tracking in and the dirt blowing in the pool and all this stuff. And unfortunately, we have wind here. We thought we left that when we left Western Oklahoma the last few days. That's proven to be wrong. But however, I mean, something would have to be done to try and even the fence. I mean, that needs to be taken care of. So to me, I just done the math, and that's $242 a square foot, which isn't really that bad. I mean, that sounds so astronomical that it's unreal. But at the same time, serving on a municipal board for 6 years, I always found out that you shop around enough and you can find a better deal. Now, that being said, you better stay with the builder because you may not get a better deal, but if you know what I mean. But my wife and I use the pool almost every day. We love the pool. A lot of people love the pool. Of course, they're not here. And I know that's my opinion. Some people probably don't use the pool. They don't think we need a rec center. Myself, I would love to have a rec center. I just don't want to see you have to pay $550,000. You know. But either way, you know, that's my opinion. I know everybody's entitled to theirs, but I know you're stuck between a block and a hard spot. But me, I'd like to have a rec center. That's all I've got to say.
Thank you. Thank you. Mr. Dumas?
Lynn Dumas, 32 Quail Road Drive. The rec center that you're looking at, I haven't seen the proposal, but the last time I was in a meeting, I heard that the roof was over 6,000 square feet on a 2,000 square foot facility. And roofs aren't cheap, and it might be one way to trim it down if you change the roof structure and cover the building only and put other kinds of cover over the areas that you want to be on the outdoors. So being frugal and staying within the bid is what you need to do. That's what I would do. And I hope that you do everything that you can to keep the costs down.
Thank you, sir. Ms. George?
Hi, I'm Tracy George, and I live at 38 Timber Rock Drive, and my concern is the rec center, the cost of it. As we all know, nowadays it's almost impossible to get a solid concrete bid on paper. Every contractor that I'm aware of at this point in time is cost plus, because the variations of the cost of materials, they are different daily, and they are doing nothing but going up. So it's my concern as to how they can give a solid bid without knowing what their materials are going to cost when they even start that job. So therefore, it is going to be a bit higher bid than probably it should be. But, and what percent of contingencies do they have on this bid? Because if they've got a 25% contingency, if materials do go up, this could go into $7,000 or $8,000, $100,000. So how was it that this construction company was able to give a solid bid when everybody else is going cost plus, which is cost of your labor and everything else, plus your cost of materials? So that is really, especially in this economic times, we all know by going to the grocery store, you know, you go in one day, you go in the next for something else, and it's double the price. Building materials are the same way. And to find good laborers, it's the same way. You're going to pay them more. It's going to cost more for them to stay, you know, for whatever. But I am just concerned about a solid bid, because that is just unheard of these days. I'd like to know how that construction do that.
Well, I will tell you that there is a contingency that's built into this price.
Of what percentage?
I do not know the percentage,
Okay,
but
we really need to find that out.
he calculated an overage in there for the fluctuation in pricing.
That's something that really needs to be addressed and found out, because that could add a couple $100,000 easily to the cost of this project. And is it used just as a bathhouse, to take money, showers, toilets, things like that?
Yes.
So that's, I love amenities as well, and I'm not against them at all, but this does seem very excessive when we have so many problems in so many other areas. But I'm just questioning the cost. Right now, they give you, say if you went with shingles, $553,000. Okay, they start building, what, in the spring possibly? How much are those shingles going to cost at that time? I'm just a little concerned about that, so.
Thank you for your comments, Ms. George. Mr. Crowe, 3 minutes, please.
Steve Crowe, 6 Horseshoe Drive. You know what I'm going to say. We use the pool. That's the one amenity we do use. I have never advocated for doing away with golf courses or anything else. All those amenities are important to the community. But $500,000 is a waste of our money. There are less expensive options that we need to look at. I think we probably did a little knee-jerk and tear down the one we had before we explored everything. But that's water under the bridge. But we need to consider less expensive options. We could build a really nice bathhouse and refurbish the island room for a lot less money than this, with a breezeway between the 2 pools, resurface it, throw some tables and umbrellas out there. It'd be perfect. The pool is what people go there for. Nobody goes there to wash their clothes, so we don't need a laundry, and you're not cooking supper, so we don't need a full kitchen. So I would like to ask you to commit to pay a little more attention to our infrastructure. You know, I know we've talked about the PRVs, lift stations, well maintenance, sewer upgrades. The list goes on and on of things that most people don't think about. And we've got to stay up with this routine maintenance so that we don't get in the same situation we're in 10 years down the road. So I would like to ask you to reconsider less expensive options, less pretty options, more usable things. We don't need something else added to our water bill and our AOBs to pay for. We've got money. Obviously, we found some extra money to spend on this. It's kind of like I wrote, it's like somebody asking you if you got some spare change. I don't know what the heck spare change is, but it's almost like we do. It's just laying here. Let's put that money to work. I bet you Dan in the water department could spend a hunk of it getting his water system up to snuff and doing the things that he needs to do. I'd like to ask you to consider less expensive options and please continue to focus on infrastructure.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Selig? You want to speak on the rec center?
Jeanette Select, 22 Buckskin Lane. Yeah, we need a rec center. I don't think we need it to the degree we have. We have potholes, we have water things that need to be fixed. And yeah, an amenity looks wonderful, but if you don't have water to take a shower, what good is it? So you need to, this doesn't need to be a $500,000 little place to give your money to go to the pool. I just think it's overboard.
Ms. Peterson?
Linda Peterson, 120 Appaloosa, and I have a question, I have a comment about the rec center. I believe maybe it was in the August meeting that Ms. Childers, you made the statement that this is you just pay, that's what we needed. This is a point of sale facility. I also, that's just a statement, and I also was wondering, who is our architect that put out these plans that are available? Who is the architect? And we had a young man from a graphic arts place who he sat here and told us, I am not an architect. This is strictly a drawing. So I'm wondering, who is the architect? And I do believe, very much so, that this could be done. We're not Bella Vista, okay? We're not, I can think of a lot of others, but we are not Bella Vista, and we need it. We don't need it at the scale that we are proposing. But I would like to know who is the architect that has drawn the building that we are proposing right now. Can somebody answer that?
I have that information. It's not in front of me, but I can get that for you.
You don't know, excuse me, you don't know who the architect is?
Yes, ma'am, I do, but I don't want to misquote the name. I cannot remember the name of the company. But there is a company that can take the plans that we were given, the plans that I sent you and others, and review that. It's pretty well done, but they will actually do whatever tweaking they need to so they can put their stamp on it as a certified architect. I'll get you the name of that company because I don't remember it off the top of my head.
Could you get the name of that company before we leave today? I find it difficult that our city manager does not know the name of the architect who is supposed to do a...
I apologize, I don't recall the name of the company, but I've been corresponding with them for over a month.
Well, and one of the things that we all try to do is to be as frugal as possible. We try to be as frugal as possible. Most architectural work is done by graphic designers. They're the people that do all of the schematics, and it's so much of it is computerized nowadays.
Right.
It was by far a cheaper option for us to employ someone to do it that way. Then he works with an architectural firm that assures that it's all done correctly. That's much cheaper than hiring an architect from scratch.
So then we will not have a dedicated architect for what we are planning. Is that correct? We'll have just a kind of a group meeting between an architect and the graphic designer. And they'll decide.
Well, they have a set of plans to work with, so, and I have to tell you, I don't know a lot about construction, but I assume you have, the construction manager is your liaison.
If a contractor comes in here to build this building, and he cannot build it to code and all the specifications that need to be done, based on the plans that the graphic designer did, that's where the architect comes in. They can add addendums to those plans, and they will stamp it as a licensed architect. And yes, we do have an architect lined up to do that, who's already expressed a willingness and ability to do that job. But I apologize, I don't remember the name of the company. I can get it to you. And yes, before we leave today, if you would like, I'll go pull it up on my computer.
Great, thank you.
All right, Ms. Wilkes, 3 minutes on the rec center, please.
And I mean it all down. And I'm going to tell you flat out, no against the rec center. We do not need it. We don't need the expense. We need repair on our infrastructure. Our infrastructure is falling down around our ears. The water is terrible. It's like the 2 big leaks we've had this last 2 weeks. We need other things done. What we should do. We can have people come in, fishing, camping, whatever, play golf, have golf tournaments. Where are the golf tournaments? Where are the golf tournaments going? Anyway, we do not place for these people to stay. Where do they stay when they come in? Eureka Springs, maybe, wherever. We need to purchase places that these people can stay in. We do not need a rec center now. Maybe in time, yes, but not now. We need to concentrate on the infrastructure that has been let go for so many years, that it is run down, it's dilapidated, it's rotted. People, come on, wake up. We've got to do something. Dead on our hands. We said, what do? So we don't do anything. We don't know what to do. You've got to wake up and come on. We have strip that are empty. And then we have people who are wanting to spend thousands of dollars to put in a rec center that was very seldom used at the expense of letting infrastructure go. We do not need a rec center, period. Not now. Concentrate on where we are. You've got to bring Holiday Island up to what I would call code for a city. Second, yes, I would put that low. Absolutely not. We are not ready to be a city. If we were ready to be a city, we would have our infrastructure going. We would have our infrastructure ready. We would have places for people to stay, ready. We have fishermen coming in for fishing tournaments, which I think are great. I've been a fisherman all my life. I think it's wonderful. But they're not going to stay here if there's no place to stay. You've got to get something done, or quit. I mean, you're putting yourself ahead of the cart. Do something, but you're just not putting it in the right direction. And I'm going to ask that we forego the rec center at this time and fix our infrastructure first.
Thank you, Ms. Wilkes. Your time is
You're
up.
very welcome, sir. And I just...
Thank you, Ms. Wilkes. You've had your 3 minutes. Thank you.
My thanks to Mr. Dyer.
Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And just to correct the record, I want
I'm sorry?
the group to know that 70% of capital improvement budgets for the last 10 years have been spent on water and roads,
Yes.
all for infrastructure. So, yeah, everybody's...
Water, we can live without a rec center. We cannot live without water.
Okay, well, I believe we have been through comments. Commissioners, comments from you guys?
I'll start.
Sure.
I think this I don't feel like this is an either-or situation. We devoted 70% of our budget to water and roads. They are being taken care of as well as we can with the staff we have and the resources that we have. We are working on a grant that will help also with water projects. The need for the rec center, as the first speaker said, Joe and Don, we need these amenities. People come in here, first thing you see when you drive in from Highway 23 or come in from the other side through Beaver is our beautiful landscaping, our beautiful golf courses, our amenities, our tennis courts, our pickleball, our marina. Those are the things, sell the sizzle. Those are the things that people come in here and see and say, this is a place I want to live. And so I feel strongly that we need a recreation center. I feel like Janice Murphy has devoted a lot of time to what she needs. Kim, who does the maintenance, probably needs a washer and dryer to keep things cleaned up. You can't deny that what's she gonna do, go to the non-existent laundromat, take them home? I mean, you need a laundry in the building. I think you need a kitchen because there's no place for people to go for lunch, not a full kitchen. You need a refrigerator, you need a dishwasher, you need a small area, and it also serves as a break room. So that and if somebody comes in and is waiting for someone, you sit down in the break room and have a chair and table, just like we have in the existing, had in the existing rec center. I think there's a reason for the plans were laid out the way they are. And that's all I have to say.
Any other comments?
I agree with the speakers who say that we need a wow factor and we need amenities. I voted on many of them over the years. But I also feel that the speakers who talked about infrastructure are right on. And we've neglected infrastructure for a long, long time. People say we kicked the can down the road. And I'm looking at some people who were on the Board of Commissioners with me before, and I think you'll agree with that. The reason that the rec center had to be torn down is lack of maintenance. We didn't take care of our job of keeping the building up. The floors rotted. We didn't have a dehumidifier down there and so forth. That's what caused the problem. So I think that we need to, we've got about $800,000 that was unexpected this year. Thank you, Danny, for doing the Purple Wave auction, $173,000, a lot of money. Thank you for selling the land under the tower, $625,000. Add them up, it's about $800,000 or $850,000. Now, we need PRVs. I've been listening to those three letters for years. We have a water manager, Dan, who's got all the certificates that he can get. We've got a good person here and we've got a good staff. But we probably will have to fix the PRVs and the other infrastructure with contractors in addition to Dan. So we need to go after that. We need to fix the things that are really important. Could we go another year with the gallon room? Sure. Why not? It worked out fine. I don't think anybody was denied a way to swim this year. Now, did we have showers? No. But every pool I've been in says you must take a shower before entering. I don't think anybody does, but at any rate, we tore down good showers. We had showers on a cement slab over there, and they went into the bulldozer bucket. So I think that we could have a building that's a little less expensive, that's been said. I don't think we need to spend $500,000. We've already spent $106,000 to take the building down and put a pad up. You put 543. And I like the comment about cost plus, contingencies and so forth. Probably it's going to go up more than that. So if you have 106, we have 543, we're up to about 650, 700. And if there's more cost, when you get in the middle of a project and they say, hey, we need 75,000 more, what are you going to do? You got to build it, you got to finish it. So we're not Bella Vista. Bella Vista has 25,000 people. We're missing a zero there. We have 2,500 people, so we're not Hot Springs Village. You know, we're small. Our budget is 4.7 million. So we've got to spend the things that are really important, and the rec center is important. I go there a lot, but I think we need PRVs, I think we need water infrastructure, and even if we get the $1.4 million grant, we have to put in about $350,000, I think, Danny, for our match to that.
That's correct.
So we're not out of the woods here. Even if we use the money that we have in an account, we need to take care of our infrastructure, and I'd rather not make a decision on this without the full 5 members here today, but I would look at maybe a little less expensive if we could even get a bid. And I know, Danny, you've been working hard. We can put people up at the new motel, the remodel motel down by the Farmhouse Cafe. We've got a place for laborers to live, but the contractor's going to have to pay more for that, isn't he, or she? So building in Holiday Island, unless you're a builder here who builds homes and has got some of his labor crew right here, it's going to be a tough go financially. But I appreciate all your concerns and comments. I agree with them, but my vote probably would not be aye for $543,000 plus the 106 that we've already spent.
Commissioner Dyer?
Is it my turn?
Your turn.
I'll start off saying I believe we need a rec center. It's one of the amenities that, as someone said, that brought us all here. It's one of the amenities that many of the residents enjoy. There are differing opinions, though, and I think we need to be respectful of that. You know, for the group that embraces the rec center and the facilities that it offers, whether it be the 9-hole golf course, the pool, the pickleball, the tennis, whatever. There's a group of people who live here and come and go to their jobs and don't have an opportunity to use those. So we need to be respectful. That said, as I said, I believe we need to replace that rec center. I would caution the board that maybe it might be prudent to take a deep breath and a time out, and let's wait to see what happens around the first part of December when these folks at the Department of Agriculture make a decision on our grant. If we get a $1.4 million grant to work on our infrastructure, to do the critical things that the Water Department has identified as needing to be done as soon as possible, that would make a new game out of this, you know. We would have resources available then that I don't feel we have right now. Yeah, we've got money in the bank. We could blow through that. My personal opinion would be to use non-assessment money to replace the rec center. That being monies that we gained from the sale of the cell phone tower, and so the Purple Wave stuff was equipment that was originally purchased with assessment money, but if we used cell phone rec center down the road, it would be non-assessment money. I would challenge the district manager. I know he's worked long and hard on this and has been very passionate about it. I would challenge him, though, to look at some options. You know, is there an opportunity to prune this down a little bit, to take out some of the things that are considered to be fancier parts of this rec center proposal? Is there an opportunity to do it in stages? You know, start out with the concrete slab, get that put in. Then when we can afford to put up the walls, put up the walls. Do it in stages like I would as a homeowner. Could be an option. One thing that a lot of communities that I've lived in have found quite exciting, they've had actors in the community step up and say, I'll fund that if you put money. Let's put the word out. Is there anybody in Holiday, there's some people in Holiday Island that have some money. Is there somebody that would like to contribute to this and have their name on the rec center? Something we can look at. But I'm not saying no to the rec center. I look forward to seeing a new rec center built there in the near future. And I'm not saying 5 years from now. I'm saying in the near future. But I think it might be prudent to take a deep breath right now, as I said, and see what the state of Arkansas does on our grant. After the first of the year. I will say, Ms. Wilkes commented about the water lines. I think she was referring to the infrastructure in general, though. That it's not that we don't kick the can. We don't ignore them. We work on them every day. Every day. And I'm not talking just 5 days a week. If need be, Dan and his folks are out weekends or whatever, and we address things. The unfortunate thing about our 50-year-old water lines, kind of like my body, not what it was 20 years ago, near what it was 30 years ago. And a lot of these failures that we see in our water system occur in a way that you can't see them. The water goes down on the ground, back to the aquifer, hopefully. So it makes it very difficult to fix those when you don't know where they are. And when we have 69 or 70 miles of water lines here, I don't think anybody in this room or outside of this room has an appetite for us bringing in construction equipment and starting excavating and replacing at a tune of $1 million a mile at a minimum. Who's got an extra $200, $250 a month to pay those bonds?
That's right.
Who would raise their hand to say, yeah, I'm good with it? For now, I think we need to be satisfied with the work Dan and his people do of repairing the known leaks. And Dan has identified some critical things, PRVs, rebuilding the pumps in wells 4 and 5, which are 50 years old. Time for them to get a little attention so they don't completely fail like the pump on well 1 did this past summer. So that's my opinion.
Very good. Well, mine really is that if we didn't have the amenities, Holiday Island would not exist. There has to be a reason for a town to be anywhere. A lot of places it's because it was alongside a railroad track, so it was, a place, that the railroad serviced, or it was a river port. We only are here because of the amenities. And I would think that almost everybody in this room moved to Holiday Island because of the amenities. I don't use the golf course. I don't swim. Used to have a boat, but I don't anymore. But it's the amenities that draw people to this community. And the rec center is part of it. I don't know how many people have said, thank goodness for the swimming pool because my grandchildren are coming, that kind of thing. I, for one, think it's important for us to build a rec center for multiple reasons. I really feel like it's almost an obligation. I know that legally, if you go to swim and you accept responsibility that you're engaging in a hazardous thing. But from a moral and an ethical stance, I feel it's important that we have closer supervision to all of those pools. We weren't even able to open one pool this year. To which somebody said, well, you're not opening the pool, so I guess you're going to drop our assessments, right? So that's the mindset some people are going to have. Honestly, I thought the island room was away from the big pool. You could, buy your admission to go to the pool, but it didn't provide the supervision that I think that we are ethically and morally required to have. Plus, we gave up one of the small structures that people can have community events in. So when you look at all of the things that our assessments pay for, the roads, the water, all of the amenities, we had some of them that were completely diminished. And unfortunately, I think there are people in this community that will say, well, you don't have as much stuff as you used to. Let's do a reassessment. You just lower all of your assessments. We know the price of everything has gone up. The AOV hasn't gone up, but everything else has. So we are trying to accomplish more, the same amount with less ability to do that. So I really do think whether we just do one lump sum, whether we look at getting a low interest loan and pay this out over 10 years, I don't know how, but I just really do think that we need to replace that building. It's a third of the size it originally was. We're only going to build it once. It's not going to be built every year, every 10 years or anything like that. I want to build a building down there that we as a community can be proud of. Not some little, tiny house that's built that we can take admission money from. So, I don't think we're at the point to make a decision now. I think once we know about the grant, that would help. And I do have to, I'm stream of conscious talking right now, so I will say to all of the prior boards that were here, I disagree entirely with the concept that they kicked the can down the road. I do not think that. I think they did the very best that they could with the money that they had at the time. And I also would say that once Dan Schrader and the engineer from ESI tells us that our water system is an emergency, then I will consider it an emergency. And I have not heard that from anybody. This is the same water system that seemed to be just fine in 2019 or 2020, and all of a sudden it's gone to hell in a handbasket. I think it's perception and misinformation. We are actually, in Arkansas, a young community. There are a whole lot of towns that have a whole lot worse and older water lines than we have. And they manage to deal with it. And I think our water department does an exceptional job of dealing with repairing the lines when they are able to find a leak. And it may have been you, Dan Keys. If you think about this, if you went out the entrance of Holiday Island, went down 23 into Eureka Springs, then went down the road that goes to Clifty, you go all the way to Clifty, go down Clifty and across 412 all the way to Springdale, and all the way to Siloam Springs, that's how many miles of water line those guys are taking care of. That's how much road our 4-man water department and our 4-man road department is taking care of, all the way to Siloam Springs. We don't think about it because they curl all around the hills and all that sort of stuff. So honestly, I sometimes think we get blood out of a turnip, trying to maintain all that with such a small staff. Anyway, bottom line is we're going to put this on hold for a while. We'll look at what we can do to maybe get the price down some, but if we're not going to build it and do it right, then I don't think we should do it at all, personally. We're only going to build it once. Okay, yes, sir.
Sure, I had one more comment.
Yes.
I like, Lynn, what you said, we have 4,000 square feet of awnings or roofs that have nothing under them, but where, I guess where the people would be in the shade. For a 2,000 square foot building, we're looking at 6,000 square feet of roof. So if we cut that back, wouldn't that cut down on the 543? Maybe. The other thing, I think, I agree, Madam Chair, with your comments, but I think when Jeff was here from ESI, he said that we needed to replace the PRVs. Is that correct?
There's no question about that. There's no question about
Ain't no question about that, but
Yeah,
honestly,
That's a big ticket item.
well, but the previous, it's not an emergency. Am I right, Dan? Is it not, it's not an emergency. Sitting in the corner back there. But it's something we need to get done, and the prior boards had allocated, let's do 5 a year and get it done in a reasonable manner and get it taken care of. It's gonna-
Those
we're
weren't
gonna-
done 5 a year.
Well,
They weren't accomplished.
We're gonna spend $300,000 to do them all this year, pay somebody else to come in and do it. That means, you know, certain other things won't get taken care of. So, yeah, well, we all agree, let's get it done.
Yeah, the last thing was fire hydrants, and our fire chief has left the building, but we have water lines that are affected by fire hydrants or vice versa. And I think there's cost there for 204 or 205 fire hydrants. So I'd like some attention and maybe money paid toward those.
Is it possible Dan could answer your question? I know I'm
Sure,
not-
Dan. I mean, mine was more of a comment than a question, I guess.
I mean, what do you want me to answer?
I'm not sure.
Was it an emergency for?
Is it an emergency?
Here,
Yeah.
Like I said, everyone's working. It's not working correctly, but, you know, it's not like we gotta change them tomorrow or the next day. They do need attention.
They're 50 years old, of course. Yeah. Of course. All right.
Madam Chair, I have one quick
Sure.
comment. Again, this doesn't have to be an either or. I also feel that when I came on this board in December, we had been working on plans for, 6 months prior to that? When did they close the rec center?
Or more.
Or more. We have waited, we have thought about it, we have had 3 separate engineering reports, several at the request of the citizenry, and it's, we'll be accused of kicking the can down the road again if that lot sits empty all summer. And when dust blows and pumps clog up because it's not prepared. And I will vote to put up the building. I think it's important. And I think, I agree with waiting till after December. But whether or not we get this $1.4 million water grant, it's not going to affect the funds we have available to pay
That's
for the rec
true.
center.
That's true.
I mean, that's my bottom line.
That's true. We actually have $1 million more in our money market account than has traditionally been carried in that account. It's just accrued over time, and personally, I think the assessment, people that pay the assessment expect that money to be spent on improvements for the community and not sitting in our bank account.
Absolutely.
It takes a certain amount of operating capital to stay in your, to make sure that you have good cash flow, but we have got more than we ever had before, which would take us along to the end of Munch Financials.
I'm ready.
All right.
Ready when you are.
You all have a
It's rock and roll.
sheet and
Thank you, Cheryl. So as you can see, this is expenditures as of the end of September. And once again, I put a dollar amount and a percentage here. So, roads is at 60%, for example. Water, wastewater at almost 89. So across the board, our expenditures are right on target, right about where they should be for this time of year. The recreation center is a little higher because that was the first payment of the money to do the demolition work there. and we had to purchase a portable building for Kim to put tools and supplies and things like that to continue the maintenance work that she does down there, so. But yeah, we're tracking just about what our projections were on expenditures. On the next page.
Danny, could I ask a
Yes, sir.
question? On fire we have 77% expended. Are we waiting for the new chief to come in, whether his or her plans for the rest of the year on that amount? And when might that be, do you think?
Well, we are going to be reviewing applications and resumes this week. So, you know, my goal would be to have someone hired within 3 weeks. Because we want to narrow down to probably 4 candidates. I believe I have about 10 or 11 resumes so far. And I'd like to get that down to about 4. And then I've got a couple of other fire chiefs that are going to sit on the panel to help me interview, as well as a lady that works here with the auxiliary.
All right.
Thank you.
That's good news.
And this is as of September, which is 3/4 of the way through the year, so about 75% would be, if it's not one of these, like a campground fluctuates entirely.
And to answer the other part of your question, Dr. Brown, yes, I want to wait on the new fire chief to make any major expenditures at the fire department. I think one of the things that we discussed during the budget discussions was a new pumper truck, and it was about $60,000, I believe. No, I don't think it makes sense to buy a purchase of that size 3 weeks before you hire your new fire chief. Let him come in here and evaluate this equipment. And, you know, I've been in that position as an incoming chief, and I didn't want to be saddled with decisions that were made 2 weeks prior to my arrival. So I want him to come in and assess things, and then we'll make those capital purchases as well as personnel decisions. I don't want to make any changes, promotions, or personnel decisions at this point. So next page, this is our revenue as of September, and you'll notice I made a little in parentheses there. This is non-AOB. This does not include the AOBs. And we're at 1.8 million. Our projected revenue was just over 2 million. So we're, 87, right at 88% of our revenue. So we're following really closely to what we projected here. I think the campground, well, if you'll go to the next page, you can see the percentages there. And as I mention every time, these are a little bit deceptive, because if you look at the roads department, it's showing 457%. Well, the roads department revenue is only projected to be, a small amount. So, but overall, we're doing real well. The campground has done well this year.
Danny,
Yes, sir.
just so I don't forget. Received word that the campground manager was injured in an accident in front of his home this past week. Have you heard anything about that?
No, sir, I have not.
Hit my car.
Oh, my goodness.
I had not heard, no. I'll check on that as soon as we finish this meeting. Yes, sir. I will. I hope he's okay.
Tremendous resource to Holiday Island.
Oh, he's a super guy. His personality is what makes that campground work. You can't help but like him, and he builds relationships with these campers, and then they come back every year. So.
And some of them come back and build houses.
They do. Yes, they do. Okay, next page. So once again, this is the non-AOB revenue. You can see we're at 88.14%. On the expenditure side, we're at 77%, and that's at 75% of the year. However, our expenditures are going to taper off these next 3 months, October, November, December, colder weather. We're not putting chemicals on the golf courses. We're doing a little bit less of everything. You know, Holiday Island kind of slows down in the fall and the winter months. So I actually think we're going to come a little over on revenue and probably a little under on expenditures overall for the year. So on the next page, you can see there kind of how we're tracking. Now that gap between revenue and expenditures is, I'm not showing the AOB money in there. So if you add what we've collected on AOBs.
Are you sure?
I'm sure.
You're sure? All right.
Yes. Well, let's take a look at the next page, and then you can see where we're at on AOBs. So the yellow line at the bottom is what we've collected so far this year. So, you know, 1.3, almost 1.35 million is what we've collected. The outstanding or past due is what's in that blue line. And that number is coming down as people have started to pay. And then when you see these numbers after October, you know, the due date I think was October the 17th. And so there was a flood of people coming in here the first 2 weeks of October. But this report is through the end of September. So we'll see how that shakes out. The green line there, 2.5 million, is what we projected for the AOB. And that includes, by the way, that includes the debt service portion. Because when you pay your AOB, there's a portion of that that goes towards debt service for the wastewater treatment plant. Okay, reserves are unchanged. We are making more on our investments. You know, interest rates have gone up significantly over the last 6 to 8 months, almost a year. We had CDs paying like 0.2% or something like that, 0.3%. And we just reinvested about $700,000 of those CDs. They matured, and so we roll them over and reinvest them. And when we do that, we do a bid process. And I was able to get a bid this time for 3.5%. So over 10 times the interest earnings of what we've had previously. So
A 2-year CD?
Yes, that was a 24 months, it sure was, yeah. Now, the penalty on that is 6 months interest. So at 6 months, we'll break even, and we can still, you know, access that, but.
Well, you have more that you're rolling over anyway.
Yeah.
Correct.
So, you know, the idea that you would have to cash in that, break that CD at some point.
Very slim.
Is very slim.
Very
Yeah.
slim. And we have, I believe, there's either 6 or 7 CDs. The next ones come due, I believe it's in March, and I think it's when the next ones are due. But once again, we'll do that bid process again in March and keep it where we can earn the most. So on the next page, you'll see this is our money market account. This is kind of what I call the mothership account. This is where all revenues go into this primary account. In municipal government, you would call this your general fund. So about almost 2.3 million there.
But that was the end of September, and I think I heard
Correct.
Carrie say that they accepted about $617,000 in AOBs in the first 2 weeks, so.
Yes, so when you see this number, you're going to see, well, you can see it every year.
You can see it every
from
year,
September to
yeah.
October.
Yeah,
You
you
can
can.
see those AOBs coming in there. And this is a pretty predictable pattern.
But this is the one where, if you look at it, in 2019, at the end of the year, there was $1 million, let's say $1.6 million, $1.7 million, something like that.
Yeah, about 1.7.
Whereas last year in December, it was 2.9 million. So there's a good bit of money in that account to be accessed and spent. You know, if they could operate on $1.5 million, I'll bet you that we can too.
Okay, and then on the next page, you'll see that's our monthly cash flow. Not much change. That number that's in the bottom right-hand corner, that's the monthly net change in cash. So,
Gosh.
between $5,000 and $6,000 net change.
And the reason that we put this report together, I worked with Danny and Jennifer to get this report together, is it is so hard to look at the receivables because you're not going to get but about 85% of the receivables. Whereas this shows how much cash actually came into the office, how much expenditures went out. So the difference, the net change in cash from January to September is $5,000.
Mm-hmm.
So we don't make a whole lot of money, folks. In fact, it makes me wonder how we got all that money in the bank.
At least we're back in the black on our cash flow. You can see that the cash flow in May, June, July, and August were negative numbers.
Yes.
But that's because May, June, July, and August, that's the summer months. Things are really busy here. We're buying a lot of supplies, we're buying a lot of fuel, we're buying a lot of chemicals, we're buying things to stock the restaurant. There's just a lot going on and a lot of money going out during that time of year. So anyway, so we're on track. I'm pleased seeing where we're at with expenditures and revenue because we're very, very close to what we projected. I'm happy to answer any questions if the board has any questions.
Keep doing what you're doing.
Yeah. All right, let's move along to the next two items. Last year, we came at 7 o'clock in the morning on the day of the election to open a meeting, and I asked, why on earth are we doing this? And fortunately for Carrie's historical knowledge about the district, she said, we didn't used to do this ever any time. So almost all of our voting procedures are in the Muni Code. And then there is the letter that goes out to all property owners to tell them about the election. But to avoid, this is my request to put this on the agenda, to avoid having to have a 7 o'clock meeting on election day, I would like for us to make a motion to accept those procedures for the 2022 election of commissioners. So for the first one, I'd like to hear a motion to establish the early voting timeline for the 2022 election of commissioners.
Chairwoman,
Yes, ma'am.
I make a motion to begin early voting on Monday, November 21st, 2022, and continue through December 5th, 2022, with the exception of Thanksgiving Day and the day after at the district office between the hours of 8 a.m. and 4:30.
Thank you.
Second the motion.
Commissioner Surratt has made a motion to establish the early voting timeline. Commissioner Brown has seconded. All in favor? Aye.
I have a question.
Read the script.
I know you did, but that would lead me to believe that I could vote on a Sunday or a Saturday, wouldn't
Just the days the office is open.
It doesn't say the
It
days.
probably doesn't say weekday, but it,
it? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, could we have?
do you want to do an amendment?
Well, yeah.
Sure, sure.
Because I think that could be
Construed that way.
misinterpreted.
Okay.
Madam Chair, I make a motion that we begin early voting on weekdays, beginning Monday, November 21st, 2022, and continuing through December 5th, 2022, with the exception of Thanksgiving, the day after, and weekends at the district office between the hours of 8 and 4:30.
Very good. We have a motion on the floor. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commissioner Dyer has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Now, we would like to establish the election day, which I believe is December the 6th. Is that right? Election day voting timeline for the 2022 election of commissioners. Mr. Brown?
I move that we begin Election Day voting on Tuesday, December 6, 2022, at the district office between the hours of 8:30 a.m. and 6 p.m.
Commissioner Brown has made a motion to establish the Election Day voting timeline. Commissioner Surratt has seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We don't have to get up as early now.
Well done.
Oh, all right. Moving along to commissioner comments. Any commissioner comments?
I have a comment.
Yes, ma'am.
On October 20th, I met with Andrea Peterson, the Assistant Vice President and our account representative, and Melissa Casey, the Senior Vice President, Chief Financial Officer of CS Bank, to discuss security for our deposits with the bank. FDIC insurance limit for us is the same as all other depositors, $250,000. The Federal Bureau of Fiscal Monitoring sets guidelines for collateralizing public funds. CS Bank pledges to HICID a part of their investment portfolio as collateral to cover balances over $250,000. The pledged securities are mostly tax-free municipal bonds and some federal agency securities. Fixed income securities, such as these, are subject to market fluctuation. Interest rates are the highest in nearly 40 years. Good news for our CD deposits, bad news for the value of our collateral. The market value of fixed income securities is adversely affected by rising interest rates. As rates go up, the market value of the securities go down. I spoke with Melissa Casey about how our pledged securities are monitored. Her assistant runs monthly pricing reports showing the current market value of the bonds. This is compared to our bank deposits to be sure the collateral is adequate. And I gave Cheryl copies of the two reports she showed me through September the 30th. In the event of a shortfall, until securities can be pledged, CS Bank has access to a Federal Home Loan Bank of Dallas standby letter of credit. So there's a fallback if the market fluctuates enough that we're not adequately covered. Melissa offered more frequent pledge reports if we want them, and I'll leave that up to you if that's something you want to pursue. She made a request of us that if we have large deposits, we call her so she's aware of the fluctuation in our balances. She was aware of the AOB monies coming in, and I advised her of our windfall money, so that we were going to have over $700,000 being deposited. That way, she can get that covered immediately. She has until 3 o'clock in the afternoon to go to the Federal Home Loan Bank to place that standby letter of credit. So our deposits are covered through those actions. I left feeling very comfortable with the service CS is providing us. With funds going to Equity Bank, our staff is aware of the procedures that they'll need to keep an eye on, and then they'll be watching for similar pledged receipts from Equity Bank to cover deposits with them, which I guess are up close to $1 million now.
And I want to thank you for doing that.
Put my bank hat down.
I was going to say, for those of y'all sitting in the audience, you may not know that Phyllis is our resident bank expert. She worked in the trust department No?
Bond department.
Bond department. See what I know. For years, and so we asked her to go down and to make herself comfortable that things were handled correctly. And I get the impression that you think they're doing a good
I feel
job.
very comfortable.
That makes me feel better too.
They're lovely ladies,
Right.
very, very pleasant to deal with.
And very knowledgeable.
What prompted this was the idea of interest rates going up, and my knowledge of the bond market, that causes the value to go down. So that's why.
Which still seems contradictory, but
That's the
I
way
will
it works.
believe it
That's
if
the way it works.
If you tell me that, I'll believe it. All right,
Madam Chair, I have
Mr.
a
Brown.
comment. I'm not going to make a motion because we didn't amend the agenda, but I really think that we could cut the cost of this current plan down quite a bit. And Lynn, I want to mention appreciate you about the roofing and shade. If we have 4,000 square feet of shade and 2,000 square feet of other buildings, if we could cut that even in half at $240 a square foot, we could cut quite a sum off of this building. The other thing is what Danny brought out earlier, that it was, I think, $571 with a metal roof and $533, I think my writing says, for a shingle roof. Knowing what happened to our metal roof on the building we just tore down, I would opt to go with a shingle roof rather than, there's usually a 30-year lifespan on shingle, the current ones that are out there. So I think we could cut, again, I'm not a builder, many of you in here are, you're very astute about that, but I think we can cut this back and still have a quality building, and we're not going to meet again on a regular meeting until the end of November after Thanksgiving. But if we need more information, or if we have reservations about whether we would approve this or not, I'd like to see that be done. But and again, I'm not making a motion. I'm wondering if we could ask the district manager to do those things with the architect or with the designer.
Any other comments?
I want to thank Phyllis for your work with the bank, and I think that what you did is evidence that each member of this board brings unique skills and experiences, and we're not a bunch of unskilled people that came here off the street not knowing anything, so, as we get accused of being sometimes.
Well, I was pretty pleased to make a contribution.
Well, you had knowledge that we didn't know. None of us knew to ask those questions. Yes.
That's the way our board is.
Yes.
Danny, you were out when I meant, not a motion, but would it be possible for you to talk to the designer and architect and maybe winnow down the number of square feet and shade, just shade, and go with a shingle roof rather than metal?
We discussed that this morning about, various options to pare it down and lower the costs, so I'll do that. And if I may, Madam Chair, the reason they came to the door was to give an update on Danny Albright, our campground manager.
Good.
He's okay. He's really sore. Apparently a lady backed into him, backed over him or whatever. The worst of it is he broke his wrist, so he's going to have some surgery to repair that, but he's going to be fine. So I just wanted to give that update.
And the good news, well, there's no good news in an accident, but it did not happen at the campground, or it was in the street in front of his home, so.
Goodness. Well, thank you for the update.
Yes, sir.
Do you know when that happened?
I don't.
I believe it was this last week, but I'm not sure.
Okay. I saw him on Thursday, and he didn't mention it, he didn't have a...
Well, I think it would have been very obvious.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
That must have been, I guess, maybe Friday or Saturday or something, but.
Kim, not to drag this out, but your comment about metal versus shingle roof, there's a reason why so many people do. The difference in cost here, it was $573 versus $550, so $23,000 difference. But we get hail here about every 5 years, and yeah, roof systems are they say a 30-year shingle or whatever, but they don't cover those kind of damages. And there's a reason why people do opt for metal roof, quite often, especially on commercial structures. It's always good to look at it, though.
Yeah.
Plus, we have a $25,000 deductible, I just thought of.
Yes, that's right. So if one damage, we would have paid for it. You're right. You're right. Any other comments? All right. On, for scheduling, November the 28th is our next regular scheduled board meeting. That's the Monday after Thanksgiving. Is that going to be an issue for anyone? Okay. And then we need to have a work session on the 21st of November, which is the Monday before that. But there's a good news reason for that. You remember we were playing with an Excel spreadsheet when we were working on the budget, And if you've worked with Excel in the past, you know how sometimes the formulas get in the way and they mess up. And, well, after the accountant got all of our workings back and rejuggled the numbers that we did, we actually still have $198,000. I kept looking at that last time and saying, why were we able to spend almost $500,000 in capital improvements last year, but it's not there this year? Well, it was,
That was the equipment and vehicle
Yeah.
restricted fund.
yes.
That we, and that's my responsibility, I'll take that one.
Well, Excel is a,
But we didn't figure in that restricted fund for
Yeah.
equipment and vehicles.
so the bottom line is if we can meet on the 21st, then we can finalize the budget and then adopt it on the following Monday at that next meeting, so that it's adopted before.
So this 198 would be capital improvement? It's a
Yes,
money
that's the capital,
available
yes.
For capital improvement projects?
Yes,
that-
yes, for the items that we ranked lower on our list. So we can look at that again. So that's the good news on all this. So be glad that we have a reason to meet on the 21st. So that will be the work session, 28th will be the regular meeting.
Madam Chair, I just want to thank the people who are here today and those that are tuning in on YouTube. We get a lot of good ideas from you, we really do, and we appreciate you going to the mic and giving your 3 minutes. I got several good ideas today. Thank you.
Do I hear a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Commissioner Dyer has moved for adjournment. Commissioner Brown seconded. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All right, meeting is adjourned.